let's talk about health from the lens of preventing illness. There are a lot of diseases, illnesses out there that might be preventable with healthy lifestyle behaviors. I think about things like heart disease and even some types of diabetes that could possibly be prevented if someone had a foundational level of healthy behaviors in movement, exercise, nutrition, eating habits, and even their drinking habits. So something I want you to consider is think about what are your behaviors and how possibly are your behaviors helping you to prevent illness, but then also helping you to improve your health and have a foundational level of health so that you hopefully wouldn't get sick. Again, there are some things that are in our control, like our behaviors with movement, with eating, with drinking, but there are some health things that aren't in our control, but controlling what we can when it comes to those things. And so that's something that I just wanted to chat about and ask you to consider today. What are your behaviors? I love asking people to kind of zoom out and think big picture. And what are your overall movement behaviors? If you were to think about, let's say, how do you move? Do you move minimally? And if you really look at your lifestyle, you don't move much, you don't exercise. And again, it's not obsessive or excessive in these behaviors, but how often do you get in some form of movement for your health to help you to feel better and even to help you prevent illness, sickness, and disease? And then the same can be said about zooming out big picture and looking at your eating habits and your nutrition, your eating behaviors. What do those look like? How often are you making mindful choices to help you from the perspective of preventing illness and disease and sickness and trying to improve and invest in your health? I think there can be so much focus on be health from the aspect of being, let's say, fit, and even being concerned about how we look. But I love this thinking about sometimes health in the aspect of, man, it's so important for us to have this foundational level of behaviors to help us to prevent illness. There's so many people that might be going to the doctors that are also going on medications that if they had been ahead of time thinking about, man, I don't want that to happen to me in the future, so how can I take care of my health and engage in some behaviors now so that I am investing in my health? And something that I love about CrossFit is they have 3 different standards of fitness, or different models of fitness, but then they also have this continuum of sickness, wellness, and fitness. And they also say that is all of those things are on this continuum of a single quality, which is health. And so I love how they've conceptualized this and think about this, that health, there's the sickness aspect of it, but then you can, depending on your behaviors, move into this wellness aspect, but then you can also even go further into fitness. And CrossFit is more towards the fitness side of things, but then for some people it is just the wellness and the health side of things. And so they also, within that continuum, I love using continuums and thinking on spectrums. They measure things like blood pressure, cholesterol, triglycerides, muscle mass, and they do use body fat as an aspect of it, but I think these other things are so important and indicative of our health. And I would also venture to say that our behaviors are such a better indicator of our health than physical appearance. Looking at someone's overall behaviors, how often they're moving, how often they're engaging in behaviors to improve their health with exercise, but then also their overall dietary choices. How often are they trying to make mindful, intentional choices with their food to prevent illness, but then also to increase their level of health for them to be able to perform and feel their best for life, for work, for relationships, for family, and even for maybe things that they're doing in ways that they're serving in ministry. So this is just something to think about and consider. Part of this video is to kind of offer this perspective of, man, how often are we thinking about our behaviors in terms of our health and preventing illness and sickness, but then also thinking about our behaviors in terms of health and increasing our level of health, and not from this aspect of trying to, let's say, specifically lose weight and change how we look, because that can honestly be, in a way, a dead end. Because if you're constantly focusing on the scale and on the weight and weight loss, those aren't always things that you can control. But what you can control is your behaviors, and also engaging in behaviors can help you to feel better. And so I also ask from this perspective of like, hey, like looking at what are my behaviors I am engaging in. Is it possible that I might want to start to move more and engage in more behaviors that's going to help me to increase my health and prevent illness? But what about my nutrition behaviors? What other ways might I want to and need to make changes to the food choices that I'm making, and getting better food quality in my diet so that I can be healthier and prevent illness and diseases? And then also all unto the fact of helping to steward our bodies better so that we feel better, so that we can go do the things that we need to do, whether that be school, like I mentioned, whether that be work, whether that be our family, whether that be serving in ministry, but all from this lens of health, from the aspect of preventing illness, trying to increase our health, but focusing on the behaviors. As I mentioned, behaviors are a better indicator of health and a really good indicator. So focusing on the behaviors and building that foundational level when it comes to your movement, your exercise, your nutrition, your drinking habits, and even other habits like sleep and stress. And so when it comes to movement, like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be obsessive, it doesn't have to be excessive, but maybe setting bare minimums of like, hey, what are these behaviors that I want to develop that are going to help me to prevent, but then also increase health. And maybe it could be that 2 days per week for 30 minutes you're moving. Honestly, make it so easy to start that you like couldn't do it. And maybe it's 3 days per week, 30 minutes of movement, and whatever sort of movement that is for you. For example, I try to at least 2 times per week get some sort of strength sort of workout in. And if I get 3, that's awesome. And then also trying to get in some walks, maybe 1 walk per week, or a hike or a run. And then anything else on top of that is a cherry on top, and making sure I get those bare minimum things of where I try to move in some form or fashion at least 4 days per week. And so whatever it's going to be for you and work for you. And then when it comes to nutrition, the same thing can be said. What are some of the foundational behaviors that you want to work on that would help you to improve your health, prevent illness? Maybe it's, yes, eat less fast food. Maybe you set a bare minimum of like, okay, I'm only going to eat out like 3 times this week instead of 4. I'm only going to eat out 2 times this week instead of the 3 or 4 that I normally do, and start to shift your habits, start to nudge them into a little bit better. Maybe decrease the things in small ways, but then increase the things that you want to do. Like getting in more vegetables, more colorful fruits, more lean proteins, and start to overall have your diet maybe 80% of the time be pretty good quality choices. And then there is room for more fun choices 20% of the time. But again, this is all just thinking about, okay, what are these behaviors that I can start to build? What are these foundational things that I could to do to improve my health and be able to also like maintain them, because they're not crazy and not excessive, but then also again thinking about it from the perspective of health and stewarding your body well and developing those habits. So I hope this was helpful for you. So I really invite you to, consider how often you think about your health, your behaviors, and movement, nutrition, even like I mentioned, sleep and stress. And from this lens of preventing illness and how it's so valuable and important to invest in our health. And so another question I would even ask is that, do you think health is important, and do you believe that investing in your health is important? And if you do believe those things, but maybe you're not doing that right now, maybe you don't have your behaviors aren't indicating that, maybe you want to start building those foundational behaviors to invest in your health, because you know that health is valuable, that taking care of our health, that having these foundational behaviors of movement is really valuable and important. Having some level of like good nutrition and good eating habits is important for for our health and for taking care of ourselves, for stewarding our bodies well, and being able to do what we are called to do in this life, like in the ways that God calls us to go and serve and to do. And then I would also just ask you to think about, like, what are the behaviors that you want to develop and work on, and start to work on them. So I hope this was helpful. This is just something that's been on my mind that I really want to think about. But again, like, just focus on the behaviors, focus on that process of building good behaviors, quality behaviors, and behaviors that you can sustain and maintain too. And I also always love thinking about things in terms of also like a dial. Like, you can turn it up and down. So there might be some weeks where you're able to turn that dial up a little bit more. There might be some weeks where the dial's turned a little bit down because of life, whatever it might be. So think about health from the perspective of preventing illness and in increasing and investing in your health, and think about what behaviors you can engage in and what foundation of behaviors you want to build to be able to invest in your health, to be able to prevent illness and be able to steward everything that you've been given well. Thank you for listening. See you next time.